Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the SpookNotes podcast, where we get academic about everything that goes bump in the night. I'm Marlayna.
And I'm Connor.
And on today's episode, we will be talking about Hereditary.
Kinda.
We're going to be doing things a little bit different on this episode. Something that we'd like to do more of, considering all the different horror movies that are going to be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So, we actually just saw the movie Hereditary.
Literally just saw.
Yeah, literally half an hour ago. So, what we did, or what we're gonna be doing, is just giving our first impressions of the movie. And originally, this was kind of our inspiration for this podcast altogether, because we just love talking about horror movies. And
basically, every time we go see a movie, we'd get in the car, and then on our way home, we'd just, what about this and this and this?
Yeah, and we kind of just theorize about everything.
So this time we got in the car, and I was like, don't say a word.
Yeah, we literally drove in silence, pretty much.
We haven't told each other about what we thought, so this is going to be our first impressions, our first reactions, and it's going to be the first time I hear Marlayna's reaction, the first time she hears mine, and the first time you guys hear.
Yeah, so this podcast that we're going to do is totally unstructured. We don't have any notes.
We have no notes.
So this is kind of just raw material we got here.
And one thing I will say, though, before we start, there's obviously going to be spoilers.
Yeah, so considering that this movie came out on Friday, we highly recommend that you guys go and see this movie before you listen to this podcast, simply because we're going to be talking about all the major spoilers in the movie and what they mean to us, really. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you don't want to ruin it for yourself, just go see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Marlayna.
So, Connor.
What did you think of Hereditary?
I liked it. I thought it was really good. Where do I even start?
Okay, let's start here. You liked it. Did you love it, or did you like it?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Roughly,
I'd give it around a 7 to 7.5.
Okay.
What about you?
I loved it.
You loved it?
I would say if you give it a 7 to 7.5, I'd probably give it a 9 to a 9.5.
Holy smokes.
Okay, so tell me, so what did you like about it? First off, let's start with what we liked.
Well, I really liked how they filmed it, first off.
Mm-hmm.
The cinematography in this was beautiful. Just how they panned the camera, certain angles, certain styles of filming. I really, really enjoyed that. Especially the scenes in the house, because, well,
you know what? There are a few shots I really liked when they had. You know how they had that shot that they used actually throughout the film a lot of the outside of the house.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was day and sometimes it was night. I really like that because there's one part where it switches from night to day as if a light switch has been turned on.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And that was really interesting. And I don't know if you noticed this, but at the very final night, the climax of the film, when they went to that shot, which they've been going to the final time, those three figures were standing outside the house.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
At the bottom, yeah. So I think they did a really good job of using cinematography to set up certain ideas in your head and then flip them.
Yeah, and definitely create an eerie atmosphere. I think this movie did an excellent job of creating the sensation of uneasiness. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but there is certain moments in the movie that they actually had a really low beat, kind of mimicking a heartbeat, right?
In the score?
Yeah,
a little bit, yeah.
Because certain scenes, well, they weren't even really supposed to be scary. They were just transitioning scenes, but you had that that lub-dub sound, right, constantly going. And I don't know about you, but I was anxious the whole movie.
Well, that's the one thing I was going to touch on too, is I love the use of sound in this movie, especially because obviously we're in a theater, surround sound. This is definitely a film that I think if you see it, definitely see it in surround sound, even if you just see it in your home surround sound.
Yeah.
Because remember that scene where she's walking towards the room when all the drawing is happening in the notebook? when we were in the theater, because we were about halfway,
I know,
it sounded like behind you.
I know, I noticed because you looked behind us. Like, the fuck? Is somebody drawing in the theater? Yeah.
Like, so obviously the director and the sound mixer must have, obviously they knew it was going to be playing in theaters, but must have used that because, like, there are certain sounds in the movie that come from certain directions. Yeah. So it makes you...
It's like that panning sensation.
And then because of that, it puts you in the film, because not only is the actress walking towards the sound, you can tell the sound is coming from behind you as well. So it's almost like you are in that hallway with her.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely adds to that station of uneasiness, especially if it's coming from behind you, because I'm like, holy smokes, like, you're in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I'll explain, I think, why I loved it so much, because I think you touched on it just by the first thing you said, with paranoia and unease and the tension it created.
Yeah.
Honest to God, that final scene where the kid is walking through the house, and it starts with him in his bedroom, and then he's walking throughout the dark house.
Yeah.
Was probably the most scared I've been in a movie theater in all I can remember.
I know.
I was terrified.
Okay. When he goes... I can't remember when all that music was playing. I think that was, like, the very last scene when he's in that treehouse, right? The sound, it wasn't bad sounding, but it made me so anxious. I almost wanted to cover my ears just because I couldn't take it anymore. And I think that's definitely what the director intended for that, just because you're like, holy smokes, like...
we were saying, actually, it was funny, because before the film, we were saying, like, people who close their eyes in movie theaters, that's so funny. I remember when I used to do that. Honest to God, that final scene, when he's walking through the house, the kid, and it's dark, I almost wanted to close my eyes, or, like, cover my eyes, because, like, I was legit scared.
Well, because you're anticipating jump scares, right? And you're just like, I don't know what this movie's gonna, come up with.
And that's the thing, is, like, there really wasn't too many jump scares. Like,
no.
I think there's maybe one or two, but, like, that's it.
Well, the only one that I can really remember is, like, when the guy, Peter, is, like, coming downstairs, and he's in the living room, sees his father that's burnt up, and the mom just kind of, like, darts at him. That's like, the most jump scare thing that I thought of. Did you catch who that person was, like, in the closet?
When he looks behind him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's supposed to be, like, the demon.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, he was at the funeral of the grandmother.
He was?
When Charlie is looking at her mom, she looks to her right, and then he's, like, there smiling.
You're right. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And that's the same guy.
Wow. Okay. One of the major things that I noticed in there, the use of the miniatures.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that? Because I got a whole theory on it myself.
Well, I mean, I really liked the very first opening shot of the movie, when, just from a filmmaking standpoint, when they do that slow zoom into the miniature of the house, into the room, and then it actually becomes the scene. That's pretty impressive.
It is.
Because it didn't cut away. Like, I kind of figured out how they did it, because if you notice, once it zooms in close enough where you don't see the frame of the house anymore, it's just the room, then, like, the object in the room stop being miniature and become real things, and then you can tell that's when the real actors were in there. But it was so seamless that, like, it was really cool from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love miniatures, even just on a, non-horror movie level. I just love them. They're just, like, really cool and intricate. Yeah. So it was really cool for them to incorporate that within this film. But in terms of why they had this in the movie, do you have any theories? Because I have one.
I mean, I don't really have any theories. I think that I like how they kind of subverted your expectations, just in the sense that, like, because when you see them, you're like, oh, they're gonna move or something or do something creepy, and they never do that.
No.
There's nothing supernatural about the miniatures. They're just kind of weird, creepy things. But what do you think?
Okay. So Peter, in the end, he becomes what is it, King Padmium or
Panomia?
Panomium, something like that. Okay. I think because he's in that house and constantly around them, maybe he's, like, somehow how do I say this? Like, other households that are practicing this, like, I don't even know what to call it. It's like Satanism. So, because he's there, he's constantly looming and lingering all over them. And I don't know. Like, the whole time in the movie, I was just trying to think. I'm like, what in the hell are these houses supposed to represent? And I was like, it made sense to me. It all clicked to me at the end that, okay, he's in the house. He was the one that was supposed to be um, the god or whatever, right? So it makes sense that he would have to see over his kingdom, see over his many different houses. Also, one thing that I really, really liked is the use of ladders in the film and ladder representation. Because if you notice, like going into the attic and then going up into the treehouse, the way I think of it is because the guy is essentially like he's a demon from the underworld, right? Like he's
so
a king. Kind of ascending. So he's ascending to reality, and he's being praised by all the people that are there.
Right.
Much like how, like, even if you were to like look at the one scene where they're in the attic, right? The mom goes up and there's that whole like seance type thing.
Yes.
So it's like the use of like transcending upwards.
No, that makes sense. The other thing I like about the houses was that how they incorporated exposition into the story without really like saying anything, like because it kind of gave you a little bit of idea of kind of the weird relationship that the main character had with her mom, because obviously there's that miniature she made where like she has just given birth to Charlie, and then the mom's there like with her breast out trying to feed the baby.
Yeah,
like that's something that like you didn't really need to say anything, as you see it visually and you understand that obviously that probably colored their relationship.
Yeah.
So I really like that sense. I mean, what'd you think of, like, I mean, just on like a broad level, like, what did you think of the plot? Like, did you see it? Like, the one thing I never saw coming, not in a million years, was when Charlie died.
No, same. Because like in the trailers, all you see is this like this chick like clicking around everywhere, and then spoiler alert, she dies. She gets decapitated. So
in a very effective scene, I thought, because like again, the tension's so high. He's driving on that dark road, and like in that scene, obviously there's supernatural stuff that happens later, obviously. Yeah. But up to that point, up to about I would say halfway through the movie when they start doing the seances, nothing supernatural really happens.
No, it really doesn't.
And like, and it's just like one of those things that's just like a tragedy of circumstance, and then when that pole comes, and then you hear that noise of her heading the pole, and then I love the shot when it's just him. And he's just like...
He's so scared to look back because he knows, like, she's dead.
Yeah.
Right? And you can, like, I felt...
And then
I felt so bad for that guy in the scene. Like,
and then you don't even really see anything. I mean, there's a whole scene where he drives home and goes to bed. You don't see anything. The first thing you see is her head on the side of the road, like, eaten away.
Yeah. But definitely one of the, like, the scariest part... Well, I wouldn't even say it's scary. It's just unsettling. Is that one scene where, he goes to bed and he wakes up in the morning and you can hear the mom kind of getting ready and, like, going to... Like, you knew she was going to see her daughter, like, dead in the car. And then that, like, ear-piercing scream, that shit, like, it's shit like that I love.
And by the way, excellent acting, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
All four of them like, the four members of the family. Really, really good. Like, especially Toni Collette, who plays the main woman. Annie, right?
Yeah.
Like, awesome. Like, so good.
Well, especially during the scenes where she gets, like, angry. Like, it almost seems like she's gone insane.
And, well, I think one of my favorite scenes, just in terms of that, like, in her acting, was, like you said, the crying scene. But also, when they're at her, Peter, and Steve, the husband, are at the dinner table, and she just flips out at, like...
Yeah, no, that's what...
so realistic.
No, that's what I was saying.
When it's just, like... don't swear to me I'm your mother, like...
Yeah, and then it's like, she doesn't really act with her voice, she acts with her facial expressions, and I find that's, like, really, really effective when conveying, like, certain emotions in film. I love it.
By the way, did you know she's British? And if you hear her talk in real life, she has a thick British accent.
Oh, wow, she could have fooled me.
Yeah, I know.
Holy smokes.
So, I mean... Okay, so then I guess we'll ask then... You said 7 to 7.5. Is there anything you didn't like about the movie?
Okay, there are certain points of it that were slow, in my opinion. Definitely in the first, like, quarter of the movie. But at the same time, like, looking back on it, like, you almost need those moments to try to build up suspense. like, I appreciate that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when you're in the movie theater, you're like, alright, I'm looking for shit to happen.
It is a tad long, I will say that.
Well, it's, what, 2 hours?
It's like 2 hours. Yeah. I think it was actually a little bit more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
2 and a bit hours, yeah.
But, you know, it definitely, like, creeped me out. Like, it was really... It was really good. And it's definitely one of those movies that I want to look a little bit deeper into. Mm-hmm. That's why, like, we obviously can't go into a lot of detail today, just because, you know...
We haven't had time to think about it.
Yeah.
And,
like, in terms of all, like, the... Like, would you even say it's Satanist? It's not really...
Well, they said he was, like, one of the lords of hell, and, like, they said we reject the Holy Trinity and things like that. Like, I think it is Satanist, but not just, like, Hail Satan! Like, more like...
in depth.
This, like, specific God and for this specific reason. Like, and you find out in the film that this cult that the film centers around is doing it for almost, like, their own personal material gain. Like, the grandma got rich, and they're, like... make honor and wealth, and, like, make everybody else our slaves. Like, they're almost, like, not doing it for religious reasons. They're almost doing it for selfish, personal gain.
Yeah. Do you think Annie, in a way, kind of... Like, okay, the movie's called Hereditary. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that is... Whatever is happening is going to kind of be passed down through the bloodline. One thing that I noticed is that... okay, it said something in the movie, like, he... or she who conjures is going to receive all these riches. Now, Annie conjured Charlie. So, I don't know, the way I was thinking it in the movie is that, you know, she cuts her own head off, and she becomes a symbol.
By the way, guys, sorry, not to interrupt, but I really like, you guys can't see that, but Marlayna just did the action. When you see the movie, she just did the action of when Annie is floating up in the basement, or in the attic, and she's using the wire to cut her head off. Marlayna's like... She was cutting her head off, and then doing that same action, back and forth with the wire.
As if you guys can see it, right?
Thanks for that.
No problem. But yeah, like, she cuts her head off, because, you know, supernatural. And in a way, she becomes a symbol or a deity of whatever, like worship, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, in a sense, she's kind of being rewarded with riches. I don't know, just even if you look at her life and all this stuff, like, she's constantly working really hard and all that. So in a sense, she's kind of being rewarded. So, I don't know.
Speaking of that, I do like how the film, I mean, any film can do this, but I do like how the film foreshadowed things that were to come.
Yeah. Strongly.
Like, when you said the riches, like, when Annie opens that letter that her mom sent to her in that little book, it says, like, you know, the losses will be great, but don't worry, because the rewards will be greater, and, like, good things will come. And it's like, yeah, they all fucking died, but I guess they're gonna be rich.
But in a way, maybe she kind of wanted that, because, like, you know...
What, the grandmother or Annie?
No, Annie. Oh. Because, you know, she wanted to kill both of her children.
That's true.
So, good things...
Subconsciously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the other bit of foreshadowing I was thinking of is obviously with the... Wow, I just did it.
Oh my god.
With the bird, who Charlie cuts his head off.
Yeah.
Obviously, the same thing happened to her, and then she draws it with a crown on, which she, in the form of Peter, gets at the end.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, I mean, at the end, it is her in the body. It's still Peter's body, but it's her.
Well, because, like, Charlie says to Annie in the movie, like, oh, Grandma never wanted me as a girl, she wanted me as a boy.
Because the demon, like, wants to be reborn as a male.
Exactly. So it's like the spirit goes in the guy.
Yeah.
I really like that. I thought that was pretty good.
One other thing that I really liked about this movie, it kind of ties into what you were saying about it being slow, is that structurally the plot reminded me of Alien.
Oh my god.
Because, like I said, for the first half of it, almost nothing supernatural really happens.
Yeah.
The crash can be explained through circumstance. You know, other things can be explained, like the bird just happened. Like, it could be just, like, it just happened that way. And then, like, the first real supernatural thing, the first two things that I think coincide are the two seances.
Yeah.
First with Joan, and then with the chalkboard, and then at the house with Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the first time anything overtly supernatural happens. The glass moves, the flames go up, and then, like, things are written.
Yeah.
No, and then obviously more supernatural things follow.
But at the same time, I think you almost needed that setup to kind of like prepare you for like what's about to happen.
Yeah, because the first half does like kind of set up that there's just something weird going on here, like with is this grandmother's friends? What is this? All these people connected to her.
I feel like in a way they should have almost touched on the grandmother's life a little bit more.
Maybe.
But at the same time, it says like she was a woman of secrecy and all this shit. Like, I get it. So maybe I'll change my rating. Maybe I'll bump it up to an 8. Okay.
I think that the reason I just gave it such a high rating was simply that it really did affect me when I saw it. Like, I was actually scared, and I knew I was scared. Like, and I had a physical reaction. In that scene when he was walking around, I wanted to put my hand over my eyes. And then the other thing that I'm thinking of is when he wakes up from the bed and you see something in the corner of the room.
Yeah, you're just like, oh god, I don't want it.
And then when it moves away, like, it skitters across the wall, I literally put my hand out like, what? Why? No. I put my hand up.
The people behind us were like, what the fuck?
Like, so that it literally gave me a physical reaction. I put my hand up in a why gesture.
Okay, well, one part that actually really, really got me. So when Peter goes up to the attic and he turns around and he sees those 3 people standing there, I'm not even kidding. I like looked away. I was like, I can't see. Like, what the fuck? Are they disfigured? I don't want to know. Because this movie, like, it's just really fucking creepy. Especially the last scene, like the last, I don't know, 5-10 minutes of the movie. She cuts her head off with a wire as she's floating. Mm-hmm. And then you got all these dead bodies everywhere. Like, oh, it's just so weird. Like, the scariest part of the whole movie for me, but it was also the best, is when you see Annie's body without the head going up into the treehouse, because it's so quiet. There's no sound. You just see this thing floating. Like, it's just...
Well, you know what? It's such a juxtaposition to the scene before where, like, she's, like, skittering around the walls, and then when she's like, trying to get into the attic and she's, like, banging her head against the attic, which was fucking creepy as well.
I thought that, okay, now when I think of it, remember I was saying before with the whole thing, like, the underworld transcending to reality? She was flipped upside down, so maybe she's trapped in the underworld, banging, trying to get up.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
I mean, last little thing I want to say is basically one other thing I noticed that I just want to bring up because I wanted to talk to you about it was this movie did something that I don't think I've ever seen in a horror movie. It did a really small touch that I thought was really effective. And I thought it was very realistic and relied a lot on the actor's ability to act. Is anytime there was something scary happen or they're in a scene where they're like walking around and not sure what's going on, something creepy is going to happen. I don't know if you noticed this, but like they would always like look around.
Yeah.
But when they saw something scary, you would see it first in their eyes and their expression, and then you would see it, which is more realistic to me because like a lot of times in horror movies, like you notice when like there's somebody looking around for the killer or whatever, they're just walking straight and like, oh, what's going on? But this time they were like looking around and like they heard a little creak, they just like look behind them, which is like something we do in real life. Like if you walk into a dark room and then like maybe you just look around to see like what's around you.
Yeah. Like
I thought that was really creepy because it gives you the idea in your head that there's something out of frame that you can't see.
Yeah,
so
but they can see it, and you're seeing how they react to it.
And so the terror almost comes from knowing that they're scared and wondering what the fuck they're scared of before you actually see it.
Yeah.
Obviously it happened with Peter when he was in the attic and he saw his mom floating there. He saw it and heard it before we saw it.
Well, yeah, because like you just see his facial expression. It's almost like, well, at that time he's turned into demon whatsoever, and and you just like he looks just like expressionless, and you're just like, but why? You just saw somebody without a head float the fuck up there. Like, why aren't you screaming?
Well, and I meant even before that when she was doing the wire through her neck.
Yeah, and he's just staring
he looks up,
and he's
and
like...
before we see it, like, we see him look up. And again, like I said, it relies a lot on the actor's ability, because if the actor can't make it believable, then you'd be like, it's kind of hokey. Yeah. But if they do a good job, like, I think all 4 of them did a really good job.
Yeah. So. I really, really liked the young girl in it. Yeah. Okay, obviously...
She wasn't in it for very long?
No, she wasn't. But she has, like, some form of, like, physical disability, right? Or was that makeup? Like...
I don't know.
Well, that's definitely something I'd like to, like, look into. Maybe. Because for the movie A Quiet Place, they had an actor who was deaf. I think it's really cool that, like, they're, you know, incorporating more actors who have, you know, physical or mental disabilities. I think that's really cool. Obviously, she didn't have a mental disability. Well, I mean, but I think it's like a certain syndrome that she might have had. But I don't know. I was just curious.
That always, whenever I think of actors with like that, I always go back to think of Walter Jr. from Breaking Bad, who actually had. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. I mean, again, like just like really good. A lot of creepy imagery, like even just from the beginning when she's in that one room and she's reading the books and then she turns off the light and then you just see in the shadows her mom standing there.
Like that's scary.
That is scary. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what are your final thoughts on this?
I really liked it, and I'd like to, you know, do some more information on it just for my own personal, like, knowledge of the film, and especially, like, all the different elements of Satanism and different realms of hell, and I'd like to just see how the movie tried to incorporate all of that. But hands down, definitely go see this movie. It was worth the money, worth the time, and all that stuff. So, yeah, if you guys are up for a really good, creepy horror movie, I would definitely go see it.
And, yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it as well. I think just really well-made movie. Definitely a film that I want to watch again. It's the kind of film that I don't want to watch again immediately. Yeah, I want to watch it again in, like, 3 or 4 months. Yeah. And then watch it again. Then I'd love, you know, just to, like, kind of, like, let it simmer and then almost kind of, like, do that thing where, like, obviously you've seen the movie, you know what happens, but almost forget some shots or some exact scenes, how they go down, and then rewatch it. That's what I want to do. Well, I mean, that was... You got anything else to say?
Not really. I pretty much exhausted my mind here.
Our first impressions of Hereditary. Yeah. Before we go, this is something we didn't talk about before. I want to talk to you about something else. When we're talking about first impressions. Yes. We talked about it a little bit, but... What did you think of the new Halloween trailer? Because this was recorded a few days after it came out.
Well, to be completely honest with you, I screamed because I was so excited. The first time I screamed, because I screamed multiple times, guys, was when Laurie Strode makes her first appearance in it. And I'm like, that's my girl! Woo! Gonna kill some Michael. And then definitely when Michael Myers comes out in it, I'm like flipping out. Like, I don't know. I'm just really excited to see it and see how, you know, the director.
Do you think it looks good?
Yeah. I think it looks great. What about you?
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I watched it. I think, honestly, if I actually really have to think about it, I think I've watched the trailer 5 or 6 times now.
Oh my god. Fangirl.
I mean, I just love the new Michael Myers. I think he looks good in a way that he actually looks realistic, as if it was like 40 years later.
Well, because the mask is all like kind of like withering away and dirty and everything.
It looks much better than the Rob Zombie Halloween Michael Myers. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. I mean, I love... My favorite part of the trailer was when that girl was in the bathroom, and then Michael comes and drops the teeth, and then it's very... I like how it was bloody and violent and realistic almost. Yeah. And my other favorite part of the trailer was just when they were in the sanitarium, Smith's Grove, and then like that shot of like that kind of checkerboard kind of thing, and then
it's almost like a game of chess. Right?
And then like the guy is like, I got something to show you. Pulls up the mask, and the dog starts barking, and the people start.
Yeah, the inmates, and they all go nuts, and it's just like
it's such a sense of foreboding. Yeah. No, I mean I'm very excited for it. I just wanted to bring it up and ask, because we're talking about first impressions.
And definitely this is one thing we're going to try to bring to the podcast.
We are going to try to do more often, I agree. However, the bad thing is I was looking at like upcoming horror movies. There's a lot of upcoming horror movies. Yeah. In September and October.
Well, you guys are gonna have to hold on till then.
There's not much in the summer coming out, which is sad.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Friday the 13th in July, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. But definitely, listen to us in September and October.
Yep.
When
The Nun's coming out.
I can't wait for that. I loved Conjuring 2 so much.
I mean, Halloween.
When's it come out?
That's next year.
Oh, heck. Okay.
The new Predator movie.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that.
I watched the first one. Get to the chapter.
2, not really. Well, they are horror movies, but they're kids' horror movies that I'm looking forward to.
Oh, like The Clock on the Wall.
The House with the Clock on the Wall and the new Goosebumps movie are coming out.
Yeah, just so you guys know, Connor is a huge Goosebumps fan.
Oh yeah. Maybe we'll talk about it on the podcast sometime.
Yeah, well, just to give you guys a little tease here, a few summers ago, we actually collected all 62 OG Goosebumps books.
In their original covers.
So, yeah, that just kind of shows how devoted Connor is to Goosebumps.
Love Goosebumps.
So, yeah, he's going to flip out when he sees this movie. He's going to be, oh my god!
All right, well, that's I think that's us for the SpookNotes podcast.
Yeah.
Check us out you can listen to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes just by searching up SpookNotes podcast.
And if you guys have any questions or comments, or hopefully not concerns.
If you guys have any thoughts on Hereditary after you see it,
definitely
let us know.
Yeah, either in a comment or shoot us up in an email at spooknotes@gmail.com. Yeah, we would love to hear from you guys and get your input on our podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I pretty much said everything I need to say. It is currently 1:30 in the morning, so I'd like to sleep. So we're gonna end this podcast.
All right.
Well,
I guess we're signing off.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. And as always, don't forget to cite the SpookNotes.
Bye.
Bye.